Entitled parents. We've all seen them. Demanding, delusional, and downright exhausting. Today, we're diving into some of the craziest stories from Reddit's r/entitled parents, where logic goes to die and entitlement runs wild. Buckle up, because these parents take it way too far. I just saw a lady get tasered for trying to snatch a woman's face mask to give her to child that I argued with my husband about whether or not to post this, because I'm pretty sure this will make the local news, and I didn't want to burn this account just yet. But he won RPS, so here we are. Prepare yourself. This story has layers that we were at the dreaded big box store picking up potting soil because we are going to DIY ourselves through the isolation. Things aren't crazy here yet, but there is a 2 per customer limit on a majority of items. I assume this means everything, so we're getting 2 bags each of a few different types of soil. My husband is loading the last of 8 bags on our cart when I hear her. I know it's a Karen just by the level of unnecessary outrage in her voice. Karen, are you kidding me? Not a lot of people out here in the garden center, but we all look to her. I was almost disappointed to see she didn't come with the requisite haircut. She actually looked like a frazzled mom, her kid tugging on her hand, and an overfull handbasket of groceries. And I had a moment of, girl, I feel you. But damn it, she was pointing at us. Karen, you can't buy that many. You are hoarding. My husband, yeah we can, we're getting 2 each. Karen, oh you don't fool me. I know what you're doing. My husband, so do I, fuck off. I'm just sitting there imagining all the ways I'm gonna rock his world tonight. Well, Karen huffed at that, spun around, and yanked her kid back inside to go complain to the employee working the register nearby. Now, we already paid for our items. The employee had come out and scanned the bags earlier, and he could easily see our cart from inside. So, being finished, we pushed the cart out of the garden center into the parking lot. And then the automatic doors open behind us, and I hear, now they're stealing. Jewish great that we load the soil in the car and turn around to bring the cart back and look at plants. By the time we get back, Karen has given up on trying to convince the employee we're the Bonnie and Clyde of dirt and is now trying to negotiate skipping somebody in line. She has a child, you see, and her handbasket. Well, it's just so full and heavy. Could she please just scooch right on in here real quick and it'll just be an extra second, she swears. The woman Karen is trying to skip is young, maybe college age, and wearing a face mask. Not a medical mask, but the stretchy kind you'd wear while riding a motorcycle or when you're skiing. My husband has just informed me it's a neck gaiter. The mask is black and has like scary wolf teeth on it that honestly made the girl look like somebody you should not fuck with, even though she was wearing a Gap t-shirt and flip-flops. Mask girl is just shaking her head no, and that's all I got as we dropped off the cart. I browse, pick up a couple plants, and we head inside to wait in line. Now it's showtime. Karen and Mask girl are near the register facing off, no pun intended. From the looks of things, Mask girl finished her purchase and Karen stopped her before she could leave. I don't know if she grabbed her or anything, but Karen was still holding her full handbasket, so she hadn't checked out yet. Well, she hadn't paid for her groceries yet, because clearly this woman had checked out. Karen, but you don't even need it now, you're leaving. My son could get sick because you won't give it to him and he needs it. Mask girl, hell no, you can't have it. Back off, lady. Karen, but my son really likes it, and it's obviously made for boys anyway. Why would you even want to wear something so scary? Mask girl, because I like it, and it has my germs on it. Why would you put a stranger's mask on your kid? Karen, ugh, why are you being so rude? You wouldn't let us go through the checkout first, and now you're making my son very upset. Mask girl, your problem, not mine. And then Mask girl turns to leave while Karen manifests the biggest balls ever and grabs Mask girl by the back of her mask. Let me make a side note here. When all of this is going down, we're all just standing in line and watching. The register is still going boop, boop, boop as the employee scans items, but otherwise we are all just inside this hypnotic bubble. But when Karen reached out towards Mask girl, it was like the bubble popped and made everything crystal clear. Not slow mo or anything, but I absolutely felt hyper-aware. Like Spider-Man. Karen reaches out. People on both sides of me inhale loudly. Karen grabs the mask and yanks. A lady on my right yells, and my husband steps forward. So getting laid tonight. Mask girl tucks her head down, and she turns to Karen. Like a pissed-off bull with a bright and shiny new target. I think Karen was going to say something like, "Don't walk away from me," or something, but all she got out was, "Don't dash crack." I looked around because the noise was so loud I figured the roof was about to cave in, but out of the corner of my eye, I see Karen spasm and drop to the floor writhing. Little Miss Mask Girl had a fucking taser. I don't know when she pulled it out, this tiny little flashlight-looking thing, but she laid Karen out with it. And not one of us moved for what felt like forever, like we were frozen. And then it was fucking bedlam. Security guard shows up, more employees show up. Mask Girl is chilling like she's been through this before and knows what comes next. The kid is screaming that the wolf girl killed his mom, even though she's groaning and sobbing on the floor and clearly not dead, but maybe wishing she was. The people that had been in line with us were all talking at once, trying to tell the security guard what happened, that we hung around just witnessing the insanity for maybe 2 minutes before Karen started choking out demands for an ambulance, the police, a lawyer, the mayor, restitution, and reparations. My husband made eye contact with an employee and got a thumbs up when he put the plants on a shelf and pointed towards the door. We got the fuck out of there. That we drove home in silence until my husband parked the car in our driveway, and then we just burst out laughing. Neither of us have ever seen anything like that before. We live in a small beach town. People are super laid back and mellow. Karen was anything but, and I hope to never see her again. ETA. Not sure what the awards mean, but I thank you very much. I made this account to tell a story that happened 25 years ago and blew my shot on a Karen instead. Slowly responding to messages, but to answer a couple cues. I can't access security footage. I am an unreliable narrator in what Karen's body actually did. I wasn't looking directly at her, but she flailed, fell, and squirmed while groaning. I do not know the difference between a taser and a stun gun. Mask Girl had what looked like a thin baton flashlight. We have very lax taser laws in this state. Thanks for reading. Take care of yourselves and stay safe. My mother wants my ADU for free after selling her own house 2 years ago. I wrote about going on a Disney cruise with my daughter that my sisters thought it was going to be for the whole family. Long story short, it was all a very big misunderstanding, caused by my mother, who got an idea in her head that it was for the whole family and told my sisters about it. I also built an 850 square foot ADU with full kitchen, 1 bedroom with a king-size bed, 1.5 bathrooms, pull-out queen-size sofa in the living room, and a washer/dryer setup in the 1-car garage. One of my sisters keeps making jokes about turning it into an Airbnb with her collecting management fees, but she is not serious at all, and my 2 oldest nieces claim it for their own when they move out of their parents' houses when they turn 18, but again they are joking. So, a couple of weeks ago on Mother's Day at my place with the whole family, my mother announced that she and my dad are retiring and selling their fully paid off house, and I was going to give full and complete ownership of the ADU to them for nothing, and also, I was going to pay 100% taxes and utilities because they were saving their money for travel. My mom loves cruises and all-inclusive resorts, and my dad wants to buy a luxury RV. I said that it was the first that they told me anything about it, and there is no way that it was going to happen. My mom then said I promised that to her when I first built the ADU, and no, I never did. My mom has a habit of getting an idea in her head and then creating stories to confirm them in her mind. My dad just wants me to go along with it as he gets the RV to travel with as a compromise with my mom and her travel plans. Update: everything is settled now. My parents are going to sell their house, and one of my sisters will buy it at whatever the highest price is. And they are getting their own financing without any help from my parents. My parents are not going to live in my additional dwelling unit, ADU, and they are going to live in a close-by luxury active senior residential community. I also checked their financial situation, and they are more than able to afford top-of-the-line care. It is just that they didn't want to spend the money, LOL. The only problem that my mom has now is how much my place has become the neighborhood social center, as just for this month, there was a graduation party for one of neighbor's son who was going to one of the service academies, and they had a big party for him, and my place had the most space for it. Then I had a 50th anniversary Jaws watch party that was well attended, and just this last Saturday, another one of my neighbor's daughter got married, and she and her bridesmaids used the ADU to get ready. Also, since the wedding was child-free, arrangements were made for the uninvited kids and their minders to stay for the day and use the pool. I also have hired for the summer 2 young women going to college to watch my daughter, and they both have Red Cross life-saving and first aid training and certificates, and they got extra cash from the parents who left their kids at my place. I am going to have my big annual 4th of July party this Friday with my family, neighbors, coworkers, and friends and their family and friends. While this is a first for me, I went to lunch at a local place known for their fried chicken sandwiches. I had to sit outside because the place was packed, but they have plenty of covered seating and some nice fans. So even though it was 95 degrees, it was tolerable. Anyway, I sit down and already know what I want to order. So even though the table service was slow due to them being super busy, I got my order in on the waiter's first pass. However, the table behind me was already occupied by this incredibly obnoxious couple and their teenage son. I could overhear them simultaneously arguing about what to order and also complaining about the slow service. I guess they were in another waiter's section though, because they were still waiting to order after the waiter left my table. They finally got someone to their table and ordered, but with complaints. Poor waiter. Less than 10 minutes later, here comes my food. Ah, hella no, yelps the dad. That dude got here like 10 minutes after us, and he gets his food first. At first I think he's complaining to the waiter, but no, these comments are directed at me. Hey asshole, why come? Yes, this is apparently idiocracy, and he literally said the word why come. You got your sandwich first. Hey, you hear me. I ignore, but this guy gets up and walks up behind me, then literally steals my plate from the table before I'd even taken a bite. You can wait, mother effer. My kid's hungry. To this point, I haven't heard a word from this kid's mouth. So if he was hungry, he was speaking only with his baleful puppy eyes. Eat it, says the dad. Okay, so here's the thing. This place does spicy chicken. They have like 7 levels of spice, and George likes his chicken spicy. I'd ordered the next to hottest option, which is a combination of Scotch bonnet and ghost pepper sauce, not pure ghost pepper. It's hot enough to make you cry, and as my kids say, I've burned off most of my taste buds. And this kid, at his a-hole, dad's urging, chows down before I can even stand up and protest. Like before I can even stand up and say what the actual fudge, dickweed. This kid has taken a Cookie Monster bite out of a sandwich that is slathered in a 1,000,000 Scoville sauce, and the gagging is immediate. You know that frat party you went to your sophomore year where they were chugging jungle juice, and the sound formed the backyard 30 minutes in? Yeah, that. He's gagging, choking, then vomiting all over his dad. His mom is screaming. The people at the next table are jumping up. Plates are falling. A-hole dad is screaming at me. What did you do to my son? And I just start laughing. I'm standing there at my picnic table while this circus erupts around me. 2 waiters come running over. Dad is screaming. Kid is still wheezing and choking. Mom is crying. One person at the next table over is literally crying with laughter. Another looms like she's about to vomit. Laughing guy speaks up and steps between the dad and me, who looks like a real-life human anger from inside out. We explain what happened to the manager who since showed up, as evidenced by the fact their order is just showing up that anyway they pack up their meals to go tell them they are not welcome back at this establishment, start cleaning up, and the manager takes me inside, gives me a replacement meal, a $50 gift card, and asks me to please not write a negative review or press charges. So that happened 2025, y'all. It's wild here. My mom keeps my disabled brother's disability check. My brother, 38M, has a learning disability for which he receives a monthly SSI check for. However, my mom, 54F, keeps all of it and says it is for bills. She says that she provides housing, food, water, electricity, so she's entitled to it. The issue here is she's constantly ignoring his needs. My brother doesn't shower daily because he needs someone to remind him, and she does not do that. She will say things like, he's a grown man. He needs to know to do that. But she's never actually taught him how to do basic life things, such as cleaning, cooking, hygiene, etc. When I talk to my brother, I can have a full-fledged conversation with him and understand him just fine. When he tries to talk to her about his feelings or what he needs, she shuts him out by saying things like, I'm not trying to hear this right now. She tells me that he gets so angry and nobody can tell him anything. But why is it that I can talk to him just fine? I'm confused. I wholeheartedly believe he needs and wants someone to actually listen to him and not make him out to be just a task checked off for the day. He called me today and was so upset because she commented on his dirty-looking pants. In my opinion, that sounds like a failure on her end. Why hasn't she taught him how to do laundry yet? Instead, he got embarrassed and called me. He tried to explain that he just dropped soda, and she said she wasn't trying to hear it. He then told me he can't wait until the 1st so he can get some money from her so he can get out the house a bit. My curiosity made me ask him how much did she give him this month. He said $10. Do you know how pissed I am about this? I asked him what was the most she's given him. He said $40. I don't know how much he receives each month, but I feel like I faintly remember a long time ago my mother saying she received $1,200 for him each month. I can't be sure, but why it pisses me off is because she does not work. She quit her job years ago and has refused to get another since. The other day, I asked her why doesn't she get a job, and she told me that her kids need to be taking care of her now. I don't know if this is her version of her kid taking care of her, but I feel it is blatantly wrong. Because he wants to get out of the house and explore and live life, and he doesn't even have money to do that. He doesn't even know how much he receives each month. What pisses me off even more is that they are living poorly. She's barely getting by each month. Sometimes she's even calling me asking for money. And I'm talking low amounts, $10 here, $15 there. Do you see my point here? She calls me all the time and tells me how she's going to be late on a bill or they're going to be without water if she don't pay it by a certain date. Stuff like this. So just knowing that she is receiving his money and still refusing to work, and yet they are still living poorly pisses me off. She refuses to get a job. She says it's embarrassing at her age. But she also did not set herself up in life to where she's able to not work or retire early. That I don't know how to approach this. I don't know if I should confront my mom. I don't feel like it's my place to do so, but I just feel terrible for my brother. And since she's not working, I know that if I were to report her, she would be down extremely badly. Because I know she uses this money to pay her bills each month. Advice, input, anything. Neighbor kept parking on my property, so I had him towed. Hello, everyone. First thing is that this issue just happened this week, and I am so mad that I am shaking as I type this. I am going to apologize up front if I ramble, but I honestly can't believe this actually happened. I've tried to condense this week's activity into a single story, but sadly, it turned out to be super long. Sorry in advance. I think I have to put TLDR. Backstory. I'm a single mother of 2 teenage boys, and I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood at the end of a cul-de-sac. Every house on this street has a garage, and I'm the only one that has a single car and parks in my garage. Almost every house on this street is a family home with at least 3 cars, but most have more. Some will park in their driveway, and some will park on the street. It's never been a problem since everyone is considerate on how they park, and no one has ever had an issue with getting in and out of the street. In addition, I tend to keep to myself. I'm not antisocial, and I wave and say hello to my neighbors when I come and go from my home, but usually when I get home, I stay home. So, I say all of this to give you an idea that I'm a homebody, and my neighbors pretty much know that when I get home, I stay home. About 6 months ago, the house to my right was sold to a larger family that consisted of dad, mom, and 3 teenagers. The day they started moving in, I made a point to go over to the edge of the property to wave and greet them in order to welcome them to the neighborhood. They were friendly, and I was happy to have such nice people to move in next door. Also note, this family used their garage for storage and thus parked their 4 cars in their driveway. I didn't know it at the time, but their youngest son was just months away from his 16th birthday. Now that you have a little information, onto the story. The players. Me is me, and D is entitled neighbor dad, and S is entitled neighbor son, and NM is entitled neighbor mom, and NP is the poor nice police officer. Today is Monday afternoon, and this story began last Tuesday. Around 6 p.m. on Tuesday, I received a knock on the door, and it was ND. Following is our conversation. ND, good evening. How are you? Me, talking through the screen door. We're okay. I'm sorry I can't open the door, but my youngest came home from school with a sore throat today, and so I'm not sure what's going on with him. How are you and how can I help? ND, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it isn't anything serious. We are okay. My son just turned 16 a few weeks ago, and I'm sure you saw the new truck we bought him. Me. Yes, I did. It's such a pretty truck and big. Does he like it? ND, yes, he does. It's what he wanted, so we got it for him. It is very big, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's take a brief pause here and understand that when I say this truck is very big, it is very big. It is an F-350. I personally think it's too much of a vehicle for a kid learning to drive, but it's not. My money, so to each their own. Me. I don't understand? Indeed. We have been having complaints from some of the other neighbors that his truck is so big that they can't get around it when they are driving through, and we're afraid that it might get sideswiped if he continues to park it in the street. Dummy. Yeah, I've had some intense moments trying to get around it myself, but I'm sure he will get better at parking as he gets more experienced. I'm not sure what this has to do with me. I haven't complained at ND. Oh, I know you haven't complained, which is why I was going to ask if he could use your driveway to park since you don't use it. Dummy. Very stunned at this. I do. Use my driveway when I leave and come home. I can't get to my garage without using my driveway. Besides, I have issues with depth perception, and your son's truck is so big it will take up most of my driveway, and I don't want to be responsible for any damage that might happen while it is on my property. ND. Well, we will make sure that he parks so that it will allow you to come and go without any issues. Me. That isn't possible. The only way he can park to allow me to get around him is if he parks halfway on my lawn, and that wouldn't work because then he would damage my lawn. If you are concerned about his truck getting damaged, then why don't you let him park in your driveway, and then one of your other smaller cars can park in the street. ND. We've already discussed that, and we would have to park 2 cars in the street in order for him to use the driveway. It would be very easy for him to park in your driveway, and I can assure you that it will not be an inconvenience to you. You don't even use your driveway. Me. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I'm not going to be responsible for his vehicle on my property, and I need to be able to come and go without worrying about someone else's property. ND. Very upset at this point. You are not being very neighborly. I thought you were a nice woman. You don't use your driveway, and this would benefit the whole neighborhood. Me. Losing my temper at this point. Listen, I told you no, and I do use my driveway every time I pull into my garage and every time I leave. I'm sorry you don't have enough parking for all your vehicles. I'm sure it's frustrating, but it's not my problem that you decided to buy a vehicle that didn't fit your property. Now, while I also find it irritating to try to navigate the road with that truck in the way, it is public parking, and so I deal with it. I will not have anyone else's vehicle parking on my property. Now, if you don't mind, I have a sick kid and need to get back to him. Have a good day. With that, I closed the door and then looked out the peephole and saw him give me the bird. Before he turned to leave, I just shook my head and had to take a moment to understand that I actually just had that conversation. I then loaded my son up in the car and left to take him to minor emergency to get him checked out. All tests came back negative, and I was told he probably had a run-of-the-mill virus and to keep him home and do self-care. Was told to bring him in if he got worse, but not to worry. I went to work the next day and told my coworkers the story of my neighbor's request, and they were shocked. I had one coworker suggest that I send an email to my HOA to explain what happened just to get it on record because it was such an odd request. I took her advice and typed up an email that day when I was at lunch and sent it. For those who want to know, it was just an FYI email, not a complaint email. It basically stated that my neighbor made a request to park on my property, and when I declined, he got mad at me, and I wanted it on record just in case anything ever happens. So very glad I did. So Friday comes, and my youngest son has been homesick since Tuesday afternoon. When I got home Friday evening, I checked him, and he had begun to run a fever and was complaining of several other things. I had been doing self-care with him since Tuesday, and he didn't appear to be getting any better. Around 7 p.m., I decided to take him back to minor emergency and loaded him up in the car. I opened my garage door, and I was absolutely shocked to see that very big F-350 sitting in my driveway, blocking me. I can't describe to you how angry I was to see that vehicle sitting there. Now, before anyone starts asking me how I didn't know it was in my driveway, it's because my street is very busy and cars are coming and going all the time, and unless someone knocks on my door, I don't bother watching every vehicle that drives up and down the street. The only window that can see my driveway are the ones in my kitchen, and I keep those curtains drawn and never look out of them. So, I get out of my car and stomp over to my neighbor's house and bang on their door. And M answers the door, and this is the conversation. And M, irritated and kind of angry, "Can I help you? You are interrupting our dinner." Me, "Your son is parked in my driveway after I told your husband he couldn't. I need to take my son to minor emergency, and that truck is blocking me in." It's at this time that ND walks up behind M and proceeds to talk. "ND, he isn't blocking you in. You can get around him." Me, "No, I can't. You need to move that truck or I'm going to call the police and a tow truck. I need to get my son in to see a doctor. And D, turning to call for his son, and then turning back to me, he's not blocking you, but I will have him move it. Me. It doesn't matter whether you believe he is blocking me in or not. He is not allowed to park in my driveway. No one is allowed to park in my driveway, and if I find an unauthorized vehicle parked in my driveway again, I'm not going to bother to knock on your door. I'm going to have it towed. It was at this time I saw the son arrive at the door with his keys in his hands, and I turned to leave and head to my car to wait for him to move it, and I heard him call me that famous B word every woman has heard at least once in her life. I ignored him and headed to my car and watched as he got in, and after some effort finally was able to back out of my driveway and parked his truck in the street a little way down the road. I was able to leave and take my son to minor emergency where, as we waited for several hours to be seen, I shot off another email to my HOA about what had just happened that I want to advise. The HOA had already responded the day before that they received my email, made a note of it, and advised my property was my own and I could give or deny access to it as I wish. It was this email string that I responded to while waiting for my kid to be seen. Again, all tests administered to my son came back negative, and I was told it was a run-of-the-mill virus, and he would be fine. The virus just had to run its course. I took him home and called it a day. Saturday evening, my oldest started complaining of a sore throat, and I was starting to feel poorly myself. My youngest appeared to be getting better, so I figured, I do not care if you have cancer, my child deserves your seat. This encounter happened about 7 months ago. I do not want to insult your intelligence, because you most likely already know what EM and me stands for, but I should say that EK in this story stands for embarrassed kid and OG stands for old gentleman, 60-some-year-old guy. The kid was very polite and sorry, so this story isn't about him. Also, I'm translating this into English, so bear with me. A little backstory. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer of the nasal cavity, stage 2. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully benign. Edit. People have pointed out I formulated this wrong. By benign, I wanted to shorten the fact it still did not spread into other tissue, thus it was still contained, which is what I thought the word meant. I apologize for my gaps in knowledge. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to make it smaller. Thanks to the chemo, I had severe alopecia, hair loss, which made most of my hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes fall out. At some point I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead / neo-Nazi. I'm 6 feet 4 inches and pretty muscular, so I thought people would assume that. So once, after a long chemo session in the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to where I live, so I took that one only to see it was absolutely packed. I felt like shit thanks to the chemo, so I asked a middle-aged dude to let me sit. He was very understanding and gave me his spot without complaining. If you're reading this, thanks bro. 2 stops later, enter EM, a lovely whale with an I demand a parley with the CEO haircut and a 12-some-year-old kid. It took her roughly 5 seconds to see the bus was packed, start looking for a free seat, spot me, and start marching, or, in her case, trying to fit in the aisle between the seats while shoving others aside. To me, when I saw her, I knew I was screwed. She then stood next to me and decided to talk to me. This is the conversation that followed. Hey, could you let my kid sit down? Me, you mean me? Who else? Me. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way from the hospital and, cutting me off. So are we. Nonsense. The stop was a few kilometers away from the hospital. My boy just broke his leg, and we're coming straight from the ER. Her kid was standing next to her, without any support, clearly embarrassed. Me. He's standing next to you completely fine. Look here, boy. I am 21 years old. My kid deserves to sit down. Me. Look, madam. I'm sorry, but I just got back from a chemo session in the hospital, and I need to sit down and rest. I then moved my wig a bit to let her see my bald head. Then straight up started yelling in my face. Stop making excuses and get OFF the F and hashtag at INGCUF at dollar and ING skinhead piece of S *****. At this point, I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to make his mother stop, and we had the attention of the whole bus. She then grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall off. Now, Enter OG, my savior. OG, will you shut the F and hashtag K up, you dumb cow? Who do you think you're talking to? OG, with ice-cold voice, stop assaulting other passengers or I will be forced to step in. Also, every dumb moron could see that the dude has cancer. No, he's just AF and at hashtag ING skinhead. OG, he's got no eyebrows, UTWAT. Seems like that really offended because she spun around on the spot and threw a falcon punch in OG's face. I was shocked and in disbelief. The whole bus was flabbergasted and the kid probably wished he'd never been born. OG then said something unbelievable and a golden, sweet karma moment followed. OG, okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer. You're in deep trouble, lady. OG then pulled out a badge and told her to stay where she was. Then he pulled out his phone, called someone, and told her she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. OG was a bloody cop. At this point, was as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, so she decided she'd make a run for it, but other passengers blocked her way. She then also got charged with resisting arrest thanks to this. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for the and EK. EK told me he was sorry for his mother's behavior, and I felt really sorry for the kid. He wasn't a bad child, but his mother was a hellspawn. OG then talked to me and asked me if I wanted to press charges, to which I gladly said yes. Took a statement and thankfully was kind enough to let me solve everything on the phone, so I didn't have to come to the police station for questioning that I in the end. Got some jail time. I think it was a few months and some community service. I, in return, got a good story to tell and the sweet taste of instant karma. Right now, I'm riding the same bus home as I just got back home from the hospital after a checkup, which reminded me of this. A friend who's sitting next to me told me I should post it here. He, as much as myself, also couldn't believe that such people exist, but it seems I proved it to him. I should also note that the surgery went well. I was declared cancer-free in November and my hair is slowly returning. Also, I don't need to wear a wig anymore. Edit 1. Spelling errors, edit 2. Thank you, kind stranger, for my first ever silver. Edit 3. Holy, thanks a million for the gold. Never had one before. Now I'll need to learn what it does. Edit 4. Platinum. I can't even. My fellow Redditor, you are a legend and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'd also like to thank everybody for their positive comments. You guys made my day and I'm sorry that I cannot respond to all of them. I thank you, all from the bottom of my heart.